So now we move on to the fourth tab, which is pivot tables. In this exercise, there are 4 pivot tables. Their images are shown here as to what you need to create. Okay, so 4 pivot tables. So create as shown there. Okay, now it's important that during a practical test that you make exactly how it appears in the sample given, okay, including all the labels. Okay, the first pivot table is summarizing the number of mentees for each mentor. Okay, so what happens is in this one here, so this is the list of mentors and the number or count, okay, how many students under each mentor. For example, the one who has the least number of students is the first one, Alicia, having 8 students, and the one with the most would be 2 who have 18 students. Okay, and so on. So where is this information coming from? You get them from the student data here. So you have mentors. Okay, so for each student there is a mentor assigned. Okay, for each of these students there's mentor assigned. So you don't have to go down and count them. And so Excel has this function called the pivot tables that take in this entire data and allow you to display summary of the data according to how you want. Okay, best shown in the example. So I'm going to do the first one here. So take note that all these are just images or pictures that are pasted here. Okay, and a real pivot table in Excel would be done in the cells here. So I'm going to click start on a blank space. Make sure that you have enough space because a pivot table will occupy cells in your worksheet. Okay, so on the fourth tab here, I'm going to place my cursor on a blank space below this table and giving it a little space. Okay, so how it starts, what we do is we click on insert up here. Okay, insert, and then it will open this panel here. Okay, and where is the pivot tables found? It's found here, actually, the first step under this first square called tables. If you click that drop down menu, you will see here pivot table and table. Okay, so we're going to click on pivot table. So again, insert, tables, pivot table. Go ahead and click that. Okay, now what will happen is Excel will guide you through this. The first thing is to give Excel all the data that you want Excel to be churning out for you. Okay, so while the cursor is flashing here, what we're going to do is click over to the student data found earlier. Okay, we come to here. So what we want, I know this is blocking the way, let's shift it a bit. What we want is to right now select all 500 students and their data. But for pivot table, we also, this is very important, we also want the header row, meaning these labels here, student ID and so on. Okay, so I'm selecting the whole header, okay, all the way to mentor name, and then moving down to all 500 entries. Okay, this process is a little bit tedious. You have to wait for your scroller to finish through the 500 entries. Okay, another quicker way which I would do in the subsequent pivot tables is actually to zoom out so that you can do this selection much faster when you're looking at the overview. Okay, now it's going through the details. Slow and painful, reaching there. Alright, okay, 500. Okay, so they have recorded the range. When you see these funny figures, it just means that the pivot table is found in tab 4, but we are referring to data from tab 1 here and from the range C5 to T505. Okay, once you have that selected here, let me just carefully show you. I've selected all the student data here. A common mistake is if you miss out a column or so, later your pivot table will have problems generating the stuff. Okay, so we have the entire table here. Let me just arrow scroll up to the top, so we also include the header row. Okay, once that's done, hit OK. Okay, once you hit OK, what happens now is the pivot table template is pasted here. Excel has recorded the data. Now comes up this little menu on the right side, okay, which is a pivot table like ordering menu. So what we want to do now is to select some things for Excel to display here. So let's refer back to the picture here. So what we want is the mentor's name to appear here first. Okay, so in the pivot table here, what we do is, I know it's a bit hard to see, but you just scroll down until you find mentor's name. Notice that these things, student ID name, these are the top level, the header row that we included in the selection just now. Okay, if you scroll to the last one, you will find mentor name. Okay, mentor name. I'm going to select that, click on, and we get that there. You see Alicia Tomkiewicz is the first, so we have Alicia Tomkiewicz here, ending with Francis Andrade. Okay, do we have? We don't have. Yeah, so that was just showing us. Francis Andrade is here. So this showed us a partial snippet of it. So there are more mentors here. Okay, so these are all the mentor names, and what we want to do next is to count the number of names that are under that name, as in more specifically student name. Okay, so the next thing we want to switch on is the student names, which is found as there. Okay, the second student ID, then student name is the second one. Okay, the problem now is that if you click this on, I'm going to switch it on. If you click this on, what Excel does is it lists the student names under, let's say, Alicia Tomkiewicz. It lists the 8 students here. Okay, and that is not what we're looking for. Okay, this pivot table we're not looking for them for Excel to list the 8 students. We actually just want Excel to show us how many, the count. Okay, so what happens here is, let's remove this one, untick the names. Instead, what I need you to do is these student names, what we want to do is to drag it. Okay, I'm going to click it, hold it, and I'm going to drag it to here, values, the 4th quadrant here. Okay, drop it in here, and you will get the count. Okay, how do I do that? Because row labels, they label the mentor's name, and then this summation symbol here indicates counting. You can do averages, you can do sum, you can do count. In this case, we are counting the names. Okay, so we did the count names here, so just drag student name into here, and we have our first pivot table done here.